I went to college in Worcester, Massachusetts to this polytechnic school called Worcester Polytechnic Institute.
Interesting.
So it's kind of like a small STEM school in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Oh,
Very
okay,
far from
cool.
Austin, Texas.
What drew you to that college?
So it was actually a recommendation from Mr. Heineman. His cousin teaches computer science there, so
Uh-huh.
I think he kind of like knows the school a little bit
Yeah.
more. But when we were kind of picking out different colleges, that was one of the ones that he encouraged me to look at.
Hmm.
So I went to the meeting with the WPI college rep.
Hmm.
Um, and I kind of just remember like hearing about it and like being really fascinated by like the schedule and like their values for like project-based learning.
Hmm.
And I was just kind of applied and then I got accepted. And then when it kind of came time to make choices, that one kind of really drew me in the most. So that's where I ended
Yeah.
up.
So what stuck with you the most from your college experience?
That's a good one. I think there's a couple different things, right? You know, we did a lot of projects
Hmm.
together. So a lot of our classes did have projects, which was really nice to kind of like work with different teams, work with people that you might not necessarily always like work with, and then
Hmm.
kind of experience those different challenges too. But another one of the things that I really liked was some of the classes that I took, which kind of like started funneling me into my career and like the things that I wanted to do post college.
Hmm.
So those were classes based on learning how to use CAD, which is
Um,
computer aided design, so programs like SolidWorks and Creo.
hmm.
And those classes were just always so much fun, and that kind of like always like was like that one thing that I always like went back to when I was starting to look for jobs and
Hmm.
kind of how much I really enjoyed that. And
Yeah.
then of course my friends.
Yeah.
I made some really great friends and we still all like a lot of them are still in the Northeast. I'm the only one
Hmm.
here in Texas,
Uh-huh.
but slowly but surely I'll get them to move here and be close to me.
Yeah.
But we also like make an effort to meet up like once a year and like
Hmm.
rent out like a beach house or something like that
Oh,
and just like hang
fun.
out and
Yeah.
like reminisce on the good days.
Yeah, of course. That's
So
amazing.
definitely those like kind of three things is kind of like the different experiences I was able to get through my classes and then just like the friends that I made there too.
Yeah.
And then
So in college, it sounds like there's a lot of collaboration. Do you feel like Ann Richards prepared you well for that?
oh yeah, definitely for sure. 100%. I
Yeah.
think um there's a lot of things that you learn here that you don't realize that not a lot of people are
Yeah.
learning. So like when we had like group projects, it was kind of, you know, we had already done classes on about giving
Mhm.
speeches and how to prepare your notes, how to
Yeah.
prepare a presentation, how to give effective presentations,
Mhm.
how to even make a presentation,
Yeah.
you know, how to communicate all that information. And there were other students there who didn't always necessarily like come like have those
Mhm.
skills like taught to them in school or
Yeah.
have classes dedicated to that. So it was kind of nice to be able to either like share those
Mhm.
skills and kind of be able to kind of communicate that learning that we got here.
Yeah. So having that kind of like foundation from Ann Richards helped you like transfer that on and help your peers around you in college and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And
That's
then
so
just kind of
awesome.
like everyone's learning from each other too,
Yeah.
right? Everyone brings different strengths to the project,
Mhm.
so being able to collaborate in that way is always really nice.
Yeah. Were you in the engineering pathway when you went to Ann Richards?
I was actually,
Okay.
yes, I
Awesome.
was.
So did you feel like strongly about that going into college, or was it something that you had to kind of think about when choosing your major and things like that?
Yeah. So for me, like it really started like even before the engineering pathway. I think when I was a middle schooler, I want to say it was seventh grade. We used to take Project Lead the Way classes.
Mhm.
So that was like my first introduction to like the world of STEM,
Yeah.
right? And then I remember our first project was to design a birdhouse in Autodesk Inventor, and then we
Mhm.
got to like actually like cut up the pieces and then put it all together and then paint them. So I just really enjoyed that whole process.
Yeah.
And so then when it came time for us to choose pathways between like media tech, biomedical, and then engineering, I was definitely like, okay, engineering's the one to go. Like I've already been
Mhm.
exposed to this class, like I really like it.
Yeah.
But you know, kind of with that journey, I did also think about media tech at the time because I really like art and design. And so I think it was something where for a long time I really struggled about how
Mhm.
I could bring those two parts of me together
Yeah.
and kind of like meld them in. So engineering was kind of what I chose because I felt like I could bring in a lot of design and I liked the creativity behind like problem solving.
Mhm.
So then that kind of went that route. And then when it came time for college, there's so many majors right
Yeah.
under like the engineering umbrella, and it can be
Mhm.
pretty daunting to
Yeah.
pick.
Definitely.
Um, so I kind of just thought about like, okay, well, what is it that I like, what I like to
Mhm.
do, and like, how do I get there
Yeah.
through this?
I actually, with the pathway thing, I was stuck between the exact same two. I
Yeah.
originally chose media tech, and then we were just about to start our freshman year, and I was
Mhm.
like, I can't do it. Like, I don't think so. I was like, I think I need to be in engineering. Like, I
Yeah.
think that's for me. And it's worked out, like, great, honestly.
Oh,
I
that's
love
awesome.
engineering
That's
so
so great to
much.
hear.
But yeah, so I get that kind of like conflicting aspect, but I totally agree with you,
Yeah.
like the creativity in engineering, like
Hmm.
engineering just it's in quite literally everything that there is,
Yeah,
and it's just like
exactly.
there's so much to it.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what I felt the same way is that I felt like I felt like I'd be able to branch myself out a lot
Mhm.
and be able to like kind of have the option to then really pick what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And even since I've graduated, I've seen like that intersection between engineering and art just like even more and more present in our lives.
Mhm.
So it's awesome that it's going that way.
Yeah, it really is. What do you do now? Can you specify that?
Yeah, so I work for a company here in Austin called
Mhm.
Pump Studios, and
Oh,
we're
yeah.
yes,
Don't they partner internships and all
yes,
that, right?
we
I've heard
do.
about it. Yes.
Yeah. So we do product development and
Mhm.
we're all mechanical
Yeah.
engineers. And kind of similar to this project is that because we're client based,
Mhm.
clients come from lots of different industries, so we
Mhm.
just like jump in and like get
Yeah.
to work.
That's really
So
cool.
we also like move very quickly too. Like that's kind of like one of our strengths is that we can like, go from like an idea to like a prototype really
Mhm.
fast. So it kind of reminds me of my experience in Switzerland
Yeah.
of like us receiving this project and then like by the end of October it's like we had like this working,
Mhm.
functioning device for them.
Yeah. That is really cool.
But yeah, it's super fun. I think we get to work on so many different products and projects that it's just always exciting.
Yeah.
And there's just so much creativity that goes into it that for me, it's like that perfect blend of wanting to satisfy, like wanting to do something creative in my job.
Mhm.
And then we also get to put our like designer hats on too
Yeah,
every once in a
definitely.
while because
No, that does sound very
yeah,
cool.
because their products are like people to use, so like we want them to look good too.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. How did you get into working with Pump Studios?
So that's actually a really fun story. So Miss Lakshmanan, she was my math and engineering teacher here at Ann Richards.
Really?
She no longer works here, but
Mhm.
she was absolutely amazing. So she was my first year entering pathway like teacher. So
Mhm.
for that introduction to engineering and design class, or at least that's what it was when I
Yeah.
was here.
I think it's still the same
I don't
thing.
know if
Something
they,
around there.
yeah.
Intro to design something.
Right. And she had scheduled kind of a couple of design firms here in Austin that kind
Mhm.
of do like what I do now.
Yeah.
So one of them was Design Edge, and they were kind of like industrial designers. So she took us to Design Edge, and she actually took us to Pump Studios.
Really? Wow.
And so that's where I actually met the people who are now my current bosses back then in high school.
Wow.
And I
Full
just
circle
remember, I
moment.
know
That
it
is so
really is.
cool.
I remember like thinking like, oh my God, like this is so cool. Like they're working on all
Yeah.
these like products and like they're doing all these like things and like that's exactly what I want to do. Like I love engineering, I love working in
Yeah.
CAD, like I love designing and like I want to do something creative and like until that moment I was like, I don't even know if like that's even a real job or like if
Yeah.
that even exists. So like that field trip just like
Yeah.
changed my world.
That's what was one of the most challenging experiences for you, whether that be your time at N Richards or during college? Like, what was just really like a hard time?
I'll answer the college one first.
Okay.
So I think the college one first, and this kind of comes down to like the job searching, right?
Mhm.
It can be very difficult, right? Because you're like trying to find something and like you want to be open to new experiences, but then you also like know what you want.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it can be a very like challenging time when you're kind of
Mhm.
like looking out for like those experiences, but really like don't be afraid to like, make those connections and to
Mhm.
like go back to those connections. And to kind of take those opportunities about like the networks that you start to form.
Mhm.
So like that can be really challenging in the sense of being afraid to like go up to people and
Yeah.
introduce yourself and
Mhm.
make that connection.
Yeah.
And say like, hey, like my name's Libertad and I'm
Mhm.
interested
Yeah.
and like this, like, can you tell me more about
Mhm.
it? Because colleges will put on like, right, like networking events and everything like that, but it can be kind of, it can be a little scary to be like,
Yeah.
all right, let me go up there. Like, they probably like talk to like 20 different students
Yeah.
today. But, you just have to take it and
Yeah.
like, put yourself out there because if you don't, then you're definitely not going to get anything.
Yeah. True. Very true.
So, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah. What about your time at Ann Richards? What was really difficult about your time there?
We were challenged, right? They
100%.
did not go easy on us.
Yeah.
And I think that was the most challenging part is that they were there to like push us. And sometimes you just need someone to do that because
Yeah.
otherwise you'll just kind of like, all right, I finished it. Like, this is it. And like, especially like you said, like the
Mhm.
teachers like get to know you so well
Yeah.
that they know that you can do more. And
Mhm.
sometimes you just need that extra
Yeah.
little push. So I think that was probably the hardest thing because sometimes you're all like, oh my God, like, why are you making me do this?
Yeah.
But then later on, you're like, no, that was a good thing.
Yes, 100%. I get that 100%.
So,
Did you have similar student-teacher connections in college
hmm
as you did at Ann Richards?
Probably not as deep connections as I did
Mhm.
to the ones here at Ann Richards,
Yeah.
just because like our classes are so much smaller
Yeah,
and
and
like
we're here for 7 years of our lives and get to
exactly,
know us
they
pretty well.
literally watch you grow up.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure. But I still think like there was definitely like I mentioned my the teacher who sponsored like the trip to
Mhm.
like Switzerland, like her as an advisor was really awesome, especially like because she was like another woman in engineering. Like
Yeah.
she was definitely someone that I looked up to and like was someone that I like to learn
Mhm.
from. Sure.
What piece of advice would you give Ann Richards students now?
Take advantage of all the opportunities that come your way, even if they're things that you might not necessarily be interested in. So, like, always be like a fan of learning.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's like really important to like kind of like open yourself up to new experiences, especially if, especially kind of like how we were talking about earlier, if you don't necessarily know like what you want to do post college or even what you want to do
Mhm.
in college, like at this time, like, don't say no to like new experiences. Like,
Yeah.
just say yes. Like, and even if you learn that you don't like it, then that's also really valuable to
Mhm.
know, like, okay, that's not for me.
Yeah.
And then even that can give you ideas about learning about, like, okay, I didn't like that or that about this. So that makes me know that I want this going
Mhm.
forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
So always, take advantage of those
Mhm.
opportunities, even if they seem like, oh, that's not really my thing, or I'm not
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
How have you stayed connected with Ann Richards since
Mm-hmm.
you've graduated?
So a couple, what was it? Maybe like 2 years ago, I brought it up to my company and I was like super scared to bring it up because I was like, oh my God, I don't know if they're gonna go for this. It was like the internship, and
Mhm.
I was like, do we think like this is something that we could do? And like they're like, yeah, of course.
That is so awesome.
So that's definitely one way that I've like stayed connected is by like doing the internships
Yeah.
with y'all, like coming
Mhm.
in for like the 1 week long
Yeah.
business experience.
Yeah. No, it's a really cool experience. So actually, I have friends who did Pump Studios for the internship.
Oh,
But yeah, they said
really?
that how they really liked it. I mean,
Oh,
almost all of us always enjoy all of our internships. It's like
yeah,
regardless whether you say you like it or not, like it's still such a valuable experience. Like me, mine
yeah,
was construction engineering, and it's like I really enjoyed it. I found it so interesting. I really did. But
yeah.
construction engineering, it's not for me. I don't think
Right.
it's
At the
like
end of the day,
yeah,
yeah.
but like it was still a phenomenal experience. I really, really enjoyed it, and like I
Hmm.
still email like the people I went to.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like yeah, it was a really,
yeah.
really cool
Oh my
experience. So for
gosh.
you to be that like connector with like even you, like you're doing what your teacher did with you when you were in
Yeah,
high school. Like you're
exactly.
making those connections. It's really cool.
Yeah, exactly. No, I definitely always like think about that about, kind of like how much like that meant to me and like
Mhm.
being able to be like, wow, like, even if they decide that this is like product development is like not for them,
Yeah.
then like that's okay because
Yeah.
then like they tried something new and they got new skills
Yeah,
and then if we
definitely.
do get one, then awesome.
Oh, you know what I have a question about?
Yeah.
Service.
Okay.
So we do a lot of service. It's really big at
Mhm.
our school and all that. How do you think that doing that kind of service, like how did that later on in your life kind of affect you? Like did it
Mhm.
was it something that stayed like you constantly kept thinking about as you
Mhm.
graduated or you wanted to like be active in and think about like
Like
service?
community service,
Yes.
right? Yeah, I think for one, it kind of like puts you out there, right? In like a place to like help other people and like kind of like learn about like different things kind of going on in the world, and it
Mhm.
doesn't keep you. I think what's kind of nice about it is like it doesn't keep you like closed off from the problems
Yeah.
that are going on in real
Yeah,
life,
definitely.
and I think it's really valuable to see that and like finding ways that like even like small chunks
Mhm.
of like time can make a difference
Yeah,
in someone's life
definitely.
or in your community or in different
Mhm.
ways. So I think that's kind of what I like think about is like, how can you like give back?
Mhm. Yeah.
Especially like, you know, feeling so like grateful to like everything that I've gotten through like my Energies experience
Yeah.
about like like for me like being able to give back like right through like the internships and being
Yeah.
able to like host that and like support that community and like more young women to like
Mhm.
continue forward into like higher education or into STEM is really awesome. But yeah, I think like that's usually kind of like what it comes down to me is
Mhm.
it's kind of like a reality check, right?
Yeah.
Like there are like real problems out there in our community and just like a little bit of time from everyone can like start to build up and it builds
Yeah.
up and it makes a difference.
Definitely.